for staying with us on the program. In Australia, the Voice to Parliament referendum has been defeated, with all states voting against the constitutional change. Tasmania, which was considered a crucial battleground for the referendum, was the first state to reject the Voice to Parliament proposal, with 60% of the state voting no. Queensland also resoundingly rejected the constitutional change, delivering a no vote of 67%. 60% of residents in Western Australia also voted no, while 64% were against the proposal in South Australia. In Victoria and New South Wales, the no vote took the lead. With the naysayers having the lead, Australia has voted to reject enshrining an Indigenous voice in the Constitution. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is urging both the no and yes voters to come together to address Indigenous disadvantages.
To those of you who voted yes, let me say these few words. As a leader of the coalition who has supported the No campaign, while I disagree with your position, I respect your decision to have voted yes. The coalition, like all Australians, wants to see Indigenous disadvantage addressed. We just disagree on the voice being the solution. This is the referendum that Australia did not need to have. So people from all sides of this debate are rightly and understandably disappointed with the Prime Minister. He's held the pen of this divisive chapter in our nation's history, and if he has any strength in his leadership, he must take responsibility for it.
We have given our all. We argued for this change not out of convenience, but from conviction, because that's what people deserve from their government. And of course, when you do the hard things, when you aim high, sometimes you fall short. As Prime Minister, I will always accept responsibility for the decisions I've taken, and I do so tonight.
For more on Australia's voice vote, a communications and media service lecturer in the University of Canberra, Australia, Dr. Temple Owalaka, joins me via Zoom from Canberra. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. First, let's get your thoughts on this referendum. The no's had it with 60 to 40%. What do you make of that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Abosede. You're absolutely right. When this referendum was called for by the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, for example, everybody thought like it would be easy going for the yes campaigners and the yes to voice of Aboriginal Australians and Torres Strait Islanders. But what really happened was that the Nationals and the Liberal Party came together and actually opposed it, believing that it will bring about discrimination. They talked about discrimination, racist, around giving a special status to the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islanders here in Australia. I mean, it was a shocking vote, to be honest. Initially, the idea was that it would be around 50-50, that maybe some states, like, let's say, like you rightly mentioned, there are some states, especially for South Australia, for example, where the Prime Minister was a bit concerned about. They were thinking, because it has to be a double majority. We need to have the highest vote count of everyone, and you also need a double majority, like highest number of states that you would end. So here, instead of having about the 5 states, you needed more than that. You needed like 4 states to actually for you to get into the for the referendum to be a success. So because of that, the Prime Minister pursued this vigorously, in fact, and the campaign almost devolved into race baiting, attacks, personal attacks, and there was a bit of anger. So when the result came out, it was a palpable surprise to everyone. And even personally, I was actually shocked, because I thought that the yes campaigners should be getting this. And I mean, we have not healed yet here in Australia. There is still elements and sentiments around people believing that those that voted no actually are racist, that they want to continue in the history and trying to allow Aboriginal Australians to continue to be ignored and be mistreated, like you know from their history anyway. So,
but you know, Dr. Owalaka, as it is, I'm really trying to understand the issue of disadvantage now for the indigenous Australians. I'm curious as to what the experiences have been. I know that you might not be in the best position to paint that picture, because I could see the expression on the faces of some of them while listening to the Prime Minister speak, in the visual that we're showing on television. But as it is, they are about 4% actually of the population of Australia, which is 26 million people. So, well, I'm really just thinking about that. But now they have called for a week of silence, reflection, and mourning. They don't seem to be taking this, do I say lightly?
Yeah, I mean, Ambassador, thank you for that question. Is the real question that people need to actually understand. And I would like your viewers in Nigeria to understand this. So the Britain actually came with the convicts. The first fleets actually left Britain and go to Australia on the 18th of January, 1788. So when they got to Australia in 1788, they actually, Arthur Phillips, who happened to be the first Governor General of Australia, hoisted the British flag on the 26th of January, 1788. Now look at this, follow me with this math. So what really happened was that when they came into to this land, there were already Aboriginal Australians. They discarded them, made them like the British, Anglo-British that came in, actually did not see them as humans. In fact, they called Aboriginals fauna. So fauna is almost like an animal not up to a human. So until 1967, from on the 26th of January 1788 until 1967, Aboriginal Australians were actually mistreated. They had this story around the stolen generation. I don't know. The stolen generation was a system where the British, who were here at that time, tried all they could to take away anyone that is with a black skin. And they wanted those who are a bit fair-skinned to be integrated into the system, into the Western culture. So these problems and the almost total extermination that they wanted to cause within the Aboriginal community actually caused, there's this scare around the Aboriginal community, around psychological scare, issues around that leads to people
and their efforts to address that. Right, Dr. Walaka, so their efforts to address that. I want to take you up on something, and that's the issue of misinformation, because this vote that has just been held is believed to have some implications for misinformation. And of course, as a media professional and academic, just how dangerous, this could be for the country. So how do you think Australians can go about addressing these misinformations and, of course, taking care of the disadvantages that the Indigenous Australians are experiencing? You have about 60 seconds to handle that, please.
Oh, okay, all right. So just a quick one. I think in terms of misinformation and disinformation, if you want to use that word, I believe that there is a need not just here in Australia, almost everywhere in the world, for a media literacy kind of campaign from the government. When we do studies around misinformation and disinformation, most times government did not pay attention until recently. Not only here in Australia, even in Nigeria, but here in Australia, there needs to be a system where we will need to encourage citizens to, to begin to vet and to begin to, let's say, critically analyze the kind of sources that they believe in. For example, why the Prime Minister was actually talking about using these voice votes to almost to bring about what I say the prosological kind of benefits into the Australian society by incorporating the people of Aboriginal Australians. People who came up with their mischief actually believed that it was discriminatory and it was racial. That is not so. We will need to do better, have better things are called like media digital media literacy, and even media literacy on itself as a way to solve this situation so that people can now begin to look at the source and begin to vet the source that they are actually following as a way to get the news right.
Media literacy is very key in all of this. Dr. Temple Walaka, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for talking to us on World Now.
Thank you, Ambassador.